Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Spellbook deck profile. So I'm really excited to you guys because this deck is actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Pascal. And this deck is a really awesome deck that I've included all sorts of spicy tech cards in it for you guys. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. This is one of the best cards in the entire deck and the best normal summon in the entire build. Because when this card is normal summon, you can add any Spellbook spell card from your deck to your hand, like your copy of Spellbook of Judgment. We then play a single copy of Jalgan the Spiritualist. This card is insanely good to be able to special summon off your copy of Spellbook of Judgment because it has the ability you can discard a random card from your hand to the graveyard and then destroy all special summon monsters on the field, and neither player can special summon monsters while this card's on the field, which is a crazy powerful effect for this card to have, and it's not even a once per turn effect to destroy all the special summon monsters on the field. I then play 3 copies of Dogmatica Ecclesia. This is one of the most powerful spellcasters in the entire game. It's just a really good card overall that can't be destroyed by battle with a monster special from the extract, and it also has the ability if a monster special from the extract is on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is normal or special summon, you can activate the effect to add a Dogmatica card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card. Also, you can't special summon monsters from the extract for the rest of the turn, which is not that big of a deal because usually we're not summoning from the extract anyways. We then play a single copy of Fleur-de-Lis, which is just a really good boss monster for the deck to be able to search out with your copy of Ecclesia, and this card is just really easy to put on your side of the field. I then play a single copy of Maximus. Maximus is a definite one of the decks. It can deal with cards in your opponent's extract, and is really easy to summon to your side of the field by using your copy of Nadir to be able to send a card from your extract to the graveyard, because it has the ability that you banish a fusion, synchro, exi, or link monster from your graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. And during the main phase, you can activate this effect to send 2 monsters with different names from your extract to the graveyard. Also, your opponent sends 2 monsters from their extract to the graveyard as well, but you can't special summon for the extract for the rest of the turn. But still getting rid of 2 cards from your opponent's extract is extremely powerful, and also being able to send cards like Garura to get us a draw, and cards like Elder Intinist to get us a pop is really good. We then play 3 copies of Silent Magician. Silent Magician is super cool and really good in this particular deck. I absolutely love this card. It has the ability, it cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by tributing a spellcaster type monster. It cannot be special summoned by other ways. This card gains 500 attack for each card in your hand, and once per turn during either player's turn, when a spell card is activated, you can negate the activation. And if this card is destroyed by battle, or this card in its own control is destroyed or sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon a Silent Magician monster from your hand or deck, except another copy of this card, which is a really awesome effect, and it does ignore the summoning condition, so you can actually summon out Silent Magician level 8 with this card's effect, which is a really awesome boss monster. This card is super easy to put on the field because all you have to do is summon out your copy of Spellbook Magician, get a search, and then tribute it to summon out your copy of Silent Magician because it will special summon itself to your side of the field. And with the way Spellbook plays, it's super easy to fill up your hand to get this card to be absolutely massive. We then play a single copy of Silent Magician level 8. This card is super easy to put on the field with your copy of your Silent Magician's effect, but this card is unaffected by spell effects. And this card also comes out at 3,500 attack points, which is absolutely insane to just bring out this boss monster out onto the field in Spellbook. I then play 2 copies of Magician Souls. Magician Souls is really good in this deck to be able to summon to your side of the field and dig into the deck for more cards, because it has the ability you can send up to 2 spells and traps from your hand to the graveyard and then draw that many cards, which is a really good effect to be able to just draw more cards. It also has the ability that you can special summon this card to your side of the field by sending a level 6 or higher spellcaster monster from your deck to the graveyard, so you can send cards like your copy of Maximus or even Fleur-de-Lis from your deck to the graveyard to special summon this card to your side of the field so you can link climb into some really powerful monsters. We then finally play a single copy of Illusion of Chaos. This card is in here so we can search out our copy of Magician Soul because it has the ability to reveal this card in your hand to add a Dark Magician or a non-ritual monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand, and then place a card from your hand on the top of the deck, which you can search out Magician Souls with that effect. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Spellbook of Judgment, because this card is still at 1 and still one of the most crazy spell cards ever created. Now, during the end phase of this turn, this card was activated. You had Spellbook spell cards from your deck to your hand, except Spellbook of Judgment up to the number of spell cards activated after this card's resolution. Then you can special summon from your deck one spellcaster type monster whose level is less than or equal to the number of cards added to your hand by this card's effect. And you can only use the effect of this card once per turn. This card is super good just to activate 3 spell cards and put a copy of Jowgen on your side of the field, because it's going to make it so your opponent can't special summon, which is absolutely insane in this deck and just really, really good. I then play a single copy of Spellbook of Power. This card is super good in the deck to be able to use with any of our spellcaster type monsters, especially Silent Magician, because it has the ability to target a face-up spellcaster that you control until the end phase of the turn. It gains 1,000 attack points, and also until the end phase, each time it destroys the opponent's monster by battle, you can add a Spellbook spell card from your deck to your hand, which is a great effect. We then play a single copy of Spellbook of Eternity. Spellbook Eternity is really good because you can target one of your banished Spellbook cards and add it back to your hand, which is really good because we'll banish some of our Spellbook cards with our copies of our Spellbook of Fate. So this card is really good in the deck to be able to recover some cards from banished. And then play a single copy of Spellbook of Wisdom. Spellbook of Wisdom can make one of your spellcasters either immune to spells or traps for the turn, which is really good to be able to search in the deck depending on what your matchup is. And then play 2 copies of Spellbook of the Master. This card can copy the effect of one of your Spellbook cards, which is really good. Because if you control a spellcaster type monster, you can reveal one other Spellbook card in your hand, and then target a Spellbook normal spell card in your graveyard, except another copy of this card, and this card's effect becomes that target's effect, which is a really awesome effect for this card to have that basically copies one of your normal spell cards. We then play 2 copies of Spellbook of Fate. Spellbook of Fate has 3 really good effects depending on the amount of Spellbook spell cards that you banish to activate this card. If you banish 1 Spellbook spell card, you return a set spell or trap on the field back to the hand. If you banish 2 Spellbook spell cards, you change 1 monster on the field to face down defense position or face up attack position, essentially being a Book of Moon. And if you banish 3, which usually you're going to banish 3 to activate this effect, you non-targeting banish 1 card that your opponent controls, which is an extremely powerful effect that it doesn't even target. We then play 3 copies of Spellbook of Secrets. Spellbook of Secrets is essentially the Rhoda of the deck that lets you add any Spellbook card from your deck to your hand, but you can only activate 1 of this card per turn. But this card is a definite 3 of the deck because it's pretty much the Rhoda for the deck. We then play 3 copies of Spellbook of Knowledge. Spellbook of Knowledge is so good in the deck because you send either 1 spellcaster type monsters you control or 1 other spellbook card from your hand or face up from your field, except another copy of this card, and if you do, draw 2 cards, which is a really good effect just to be able to dig into the deck for more cards to be able to go in for more plays. I then play 2 copies of Preparation of Rites. This is here so that we can actually search out our copy of Illusion of Chaos to be able to then search out Magician Souls to dig into the deck. And with your copies of your Illusion of Chaos being able to place itself back on top of the deck, this card can constantly search it, which is really, really good. We then play 3 copies of Secret Village of the Spellcaster. This card is super good because we're always going to control a spellcaster type monster, and when we control a spellcaster type monster, your opponent cannot activate spell cards, which is super good. But we have to make sure that we control a spellcaster type monster, because if we don't control a spellcaster type monster, we can't activate spell cards. We then play 3 copies of Nadir. Nadir is just super good in this deck because it can search out your copies of Ecclesia by sending 1 monster from your X deck to the graveyard. You can add a Dogmatica monster from your deck to your hand or graveyard to your hand that has attack less than or equal to the sent monster to the graveyard, but for the rest of the turn out card resolves, you can't special summon the X deck, which is totally fine because usually we're searching out a copy of Ecclesia anyway so that we can get more searches, which is really, really good. So that's it for the spell cards, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing a single copy of Shadow Schism. Shadow Schism is really good in the deck to help us go in for a bunch of different plays, because with cards like Nadir, we can send a Pokelone from our deck to our extra deck to the graveyard to be able to search out this card, which is really good with the Pokelone's effect, and then we can use this card to be able to Miracle Fusion summon into basically a copy of one of our monsters, like a copy of Winda, which is a spellcaster type monster. Because this card has the ability that during the main phase, you can fusion summon a Shadow Fusion monster monster from your extra deck by banishing the fusion materials listed on it from your field or graveyard, which you will have a copy of a Pokemon in the graveyard to be able to fusion summon with, which is really cool. But it can't attack directly. Then you can send one monster your opponent controls with the same attribute as that fusion summon monster to the graveyard, which is a great effect. We then play 2 copies of Dogmatica Punishment. Dogmatica Punishment is really good in this deck because you get to target a face-up monster that your opponent controls, send a monster with equal or higher attack from your extra deck to the graveyard, and if you do, destroy that monster. But until the end of the next turn, after this card resolves, you can't special summon from the extra deck. That's still a really good effect just to be able to set this card on the field, and sometimes get a double pop with your copy of Elder Entity Nist, because you're going to be able to send that card from your extra deck to the graveyard, pop a card with this, and then pop a card with Nist, which is really good. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of Crowley, the First Prophecyr. This card is a great 1-of in the deck because it has the ability, if this card is link summon, you reveal 3 spellbook cards with different names in your deck, and then your opponent randomly picks 1 and adds it to your hand, and you shovel the rest back in the deck, which is a really good effect that this card basically searches out your spellbook cards. We play a single copy of Access Code Talker because it can pop multiple cards on the field, and it's pretty easy to actually summon in this particular build to be able to come out at 5,300 and be able to pop multiple cards on the field. Play a single copy of Selene because it works very well in any spellcaster deck, any spellcaster type deck. You basically remove 3 spell counters from this card and bring back any spellcaster type monster you want from your graveyard to your side of the field to zone this card points to, which is super good. We play a single copy of Unicorn to spin stuff, Phoenix to pop spells and traps, 1 copy of the Light Charmer because we do play a lot of light monsters with our Dogmatica package, 1 copy of IP Mask Granite because we're going to make this card and then make a copy of Unicorn during the opponent's turn using this card's effect to be able to spin cards, which is really good. 1 copy of Artemis. Artemis is really good to give us a monster that was special summoned from the extra deck on the field, so then we can special summon out our copy of Ecclesia by just normal summoning out a copy of our Spellbook Magician. So this card is a really good 1-of in the extra deck. We then play a single copy of El Shaddai Construct because we can fusion summon into this card using our copy of our Shaddai Schism. So this card is really good in the deck to be able to just put on the field as a big boss monster. We then play a single copy of Winda. Winda is a card we're going to summon all the time in the deck. And it just takes a Shadow monster plus a dark monster, which you're going to use your copy of Apocalypse plus a dark monster to be able to make this card. So it's super easy to make, and it basically makes it so each player can only special summon once per turn, which is a great effect to lock down the opponent, and it's also a spellcaster type monster, so it works with the majority of the cards in the deck. We then play a single copy of Apocalypse. The Apocalypse is only in here for its second effect. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add a Shadow card from your deck or graveyard to your hand and then discard a card, which we're always going to use this effect to be able to search out Shadow Schism and then discard a card to the graveyard, set the Shadow Schism, and then banish a dark monster from the graveyard during your opponent's turn, plus this card from the graveyard to be able to summon out a copy of Winda. You can also banish a light monster plus this card with Schism to be able to summon out Construct, which is an option for you guys. But this card is a really good card to play in here to be able to send to the graveyard with cards like Dogmatica Punishment and even cards like your copies of Nadir to be able to search out your copy of Schism. I then play a single copy of Titaniclad for its last effect, that if this card is sent to the graveyard this turn, then you can add to your hand or special summon a copy of a Dogmatica monster from your deck, which is a really good effect. We then play 2 copies of Elder Entity Nist because you can get a pop on the field when this card touches a graveyard, which is a great effect to be able to use with your copy of Nadir or Dogmatica Punishment. We then finally play a single copy of Garura. Garura is really good because if this card is sent to the graveyard, you get to draw a card, which helps you dig into the deck for more pieces. The only downside of this card is it does have 1500 attack, but it does work with Nadir to be able to send to the graveyard to search out your copy of Ecclesia. But you won't be popping very many monsters with this card with your copy of Dogmatica Punishment because it only has 1500 attack. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Spellbook before, I highly recommend to play it, especially with Judgment back at 1. This deck is absolutely insane and just really, really fun to play, especially with the text that I put in this deck, like the copy of Silent Magician. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can come part of our notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.